What was the headline for the cake bites thing? What was the trail bites? Trail bites. It's a terrible title. Me. That's clickbait, Chuck. Good Lord. Everybody's enthusiastic.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, let's hope conversation improves. All right, y'all ready down there? Y'all good? I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt the agenda. Anything we need to add to the agenda this evening? Anybody down there? Anything? What'd y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. As always, public comment. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Tracy watching us? That's great. We'll do public comment again at the end. Consent agenda. We have minutes from 6/25/2024, 7/09/2024. We have the supplemental appropriation number 2, Sheriff's Department SORO Burn Justice Grant, and the FY25 supplemental appropriation number 3, the EMS FY24 donation. Anybody have any questions? Need descriptions or anything?
I got one
please?
comment, Mr. Chairman, and that is with regard to supplemental appropriation number 2, the Sheriff's Department SRO. We now, for the public's information, we now have a school resource officer in all 4 schools at a total cost to the taxpayer of $206,000, as I read it. That's about half price, thanks to the efforts of all those who have chased these grants. And I guess the Sheriff's Department responsible for most of the grant writing on this?
Yes, these particular grants, the sheriff would have lead, and then finance or admin provides any support
Okay,
function.
well, I just want to give a shout out to that, because having school resource officers in every school for basically half price. That's yeoman's work getting out of the money, and so thanks to those.
I'll pass that along. The sheriff confirmed the day that these positions, these individuals have already started in their new capacity. So now
Yeah.
they'll be attempting to backfill. I think they used current deputies, so now they have to backfill those positions. But I can report those positions are effective now.
Jim?
Yeah, when I was at the fair, my wife and I ran into one of her former colleagues who's still teaching in the school system. And I was asking her about the benefits of having SROs in all 4 schools. And she said it's welcome because having SROs shared between 2 schools, there is a discontinuity between, them being there adequate time, and also it's more difficult for them to build mentoring relationships with the students. So this should be a real plus in these schools. I'm hoping that it makes a big
It
difference,
is.
discipline-wise, achievement-wise.
Agreed.
Yep.
I'll pass along those comments to the
Great.
sheriff. Thank you.
Please. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We do have a special appearance, Ms. Duval, with Piedmont Casa. Come up and talk to us, please. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Now, Jonathan told me how to turn it on. Thank you so much. My name's Kate Duvall. I'm the president and CEO of Piedmont Court-Appointed Special Advocates, CASA. We're a Charlottesville-based nonprofit that has expanded our service area to include Madison County as of May 1st. So we need to add Madison to that front page there. I'm just here to give you a little introduction about the services that we provide, and also just to talk to the community here who's listening in tonight to let them know how they might be able to get involved. So I just wanted to start by giving you an idea of the scope of the problem of child abuse and neglect in the state of Virginia. You can see here that every 5 minutes a child is born, every 81 minutes a child is abused or neglected, and that children also die from abuse and neglect. I'll say that about every 135 minutes, a child is served by a court-appointed special advocate here in Virginia. Can go to the next slide. Thanks so much for manning the slideshow for me. In our service area, which includes Charlottesville, Albemarle, Louisa, Greene, Fluvanna, and now Madison County, there were 369 investigated complaints of child abuse and neglect last year. We served 178 of those children with court-appointed special advocates. Here in Madison last year, there were 36 founded cases of child abuse and neglect, and as of July 1st of this year, there were 24 children in foster care from Madison County. So children really are the only voice that are absent from court proceedings that directly impact them. So when their cases are before the courts and foster care hearings, they aren't speaking up. They aren't given the chance to talk directly to the court very often. And so our volunteers, our CASAs, stand in the gap to give a child their voice and to promote their best interests in court. So what is a CASA? A CASA is a trained volunteer who's appointed by the judge, the juvenile court judge, so Judge Morris here in Madison will appoint us to advocate for the child's best interest when a child is placed in foster care due to an abuse or neglect allegation. The CASAs get to know the child, they get to know the child's family, they really get to know all the adults that are interacting with that child, whether it's teachers or medical providers, mental health care providers, the foster family. They also get to know the child. They are required as a part of their volunteer service to see the child once a month. So that's face-to-face if possible. If not, in this post-COVID world, we've gotten used to doing things online, and so they can do that too. But most often, they're seeing the child face-to-face, and then they're filing a report with the court that is making recommendations as to the best interests of that child. We can go to the next page. So this is just a nice kind of visual description of what I just described. I'm a visual person. I like to see things in graphics. You can see here it talks about the child being removed from the court, the CASA volunteer being appointed by the judge, and then the CASA getting to know just about everything there is to know about that child, and then filing a report with the court. And the advocacy really doesn't end at the courthouse door for our CASAs. They often can advocate for children who need services through school. We've had children who have been placed in foster care, were having a real tough time in school. The CASA was reading the health records and realized this child had an ADHD diagnosis and hadn't been receiving their medications in 6 months. Well, okay, no wonder they're having trouble in school. So the CASA was then able to connect the dots, get in touch with the Department of Social Services, and they were able to overnight the meds to the foster family so that the child could get back on their meds, get back on track. So they advocate within the court, but they also can advocate within other systems. We can go to the next slide. So you may be thinking, okay, well, what makes CASAs different from all the other professionals that are involved in the court system when children are in foster care? Professionals like the Department of Social Services, guardian ad litems, and other attorneys. CASAs are volunteers. So these are folks, community members who volunteer their time. We train them and support them. They go through about 40 hours of training to become a CASA volunteer, and then they're supported by staff in my office throughout their time with a case. They also work with a very small caseload. When I say very small, I mean one child or one family group. So in a case like my family, I'm one of 5 children. We would, if we had been through the system and had a CASA on our case, we would have had 2 CASAs most likely because it was 5 of us. So when we have family groups that are larger, we try to assign 2 CASAs because every child is their own unique person and has their own unique needs. And so our CASAs are working with very small caseloads. Social workers are doing really hard work, and they often are carrying significant caseloads because there are just not that many folks in their offices. And so our CASAs can really put blinders on to the needs of an individual child or sibling group. They are also independent. We're an independent nonprofit. We're not a part of the government. We are separate and apart from them, and so we can make independent best interest recommendations based on all of that investigation that we do about a child and family. Our CASAs are specially trained to consider issues that are relevant to the best interests and also trauma and other needs of children. I think you all probably know Judge Barry. Judge Barry was instrumental in the founding of our program when we got started 30 years ago in the Piedmont region. And this quote comes directly from Judge Barry. He said that Piedmont CASA volunteers are the eyes, ears, and heart of the court for these children. I had the pleasure of meeting with Judge Barry shortly before he passed to talk to him about our plans to expand to Madison. I'm sorry that he isn't here to be able to see it through, but he helped enormously back in the day when we got started, and also was a huge help to me in getting started here in Madison just a couple of years ago. I'm going to just move through. This is our mission statement. It's a little bit more about us. I'm not going to read all this. Y'all have this in your packets, I think, and I won't take your time tonight reading it, but we are an established program. We've been in Charlottesville and Albemarle for 30 years. We hope to be covering the entire 16th district by the end in the next couple of years. Orange is the last stop on that tour, but we're going to take our time to get really settled and get our legs under us here in Madison before we look any further. We can go to the next slide. So this just tells you a little bit more about our service area. Last year we had 92 CASA volunteers who served 178 children. 87% of those children came from homes surviving at or below the federal poverty line. Poverty is a real driver of children into the foster care system. I'll say, since starting to serve cases here in Madison on May 1st, we've had 2 cases referred to our organization. So we're up and running, and really grateful for the support of Judge Morris and his team in the courthouse, and also the Department of Social Services, and lots of other folks here in Madison as we've gotten started. We can go to the next slide. So I'll breeze through the next couple of slides, but it would be wrong of me not to mention that we have another program at CASA, which is a staffed program So I have 3 holistic wraparound mentors on staff at CASA who are working with older youth who are walking down the path of aging out of foster care. So these are 15 to 21-year-olds who are going to become adults without the safety net of a family supporting them. And so my mentors are doing just about everything to support them as they grow into adulthood, helping them apply to school, helping them find jobs, taking them grocery shopping and teaching them how to cook with what they buy. You name it, they're alongside them, helping them. And so that is a program that will expand alongside with CASA as we have a need in the newer counties that we're working in. So the next few slides just tell you a little bit more about that side of our programming, about bridges. We can just cycle through these, Jonathan. I want to give a chance for folks to just want to note on this slide that really the outcomes for children who age out of foster care are pretty abysmal. You see really significant numbers of unemployment, homelessness, single parenthood, people who, kids who just are struggling to meet their educational needs. This year, our Bridges youth, we had 8 young people graduate from high school. One of them was accepted into 9 colleges. One of them is going to UVA on a full ride. Now, that's not just the work of our coaches, that's really inherent to those children and their resiliency, but I do think that the consistency of a coach and the consistency also of those youth's CASA volunteers who have been along with them for years, many of them, has supported them and helped them on their path to success. We can go to the next slide. Just keep on going. So just to let you know I know y'all's plates are probably full, but speaking to community members who are here and online, folks who are interested in volunteering, we do have a fall training class coming up. The application deadline is on August 11th. If they go to our website, it's pcasa.org. They can find all the information there about how to apply. They can attend an information session as a first step to learn more. We have one of those coming up here in Madison. I believe on August 8th, we'll be here at the Episcopal Parish House, if I'm getting that right. The churches have been so wonderfully supportive of us here in Madison, both Beth Carr and Frank Lewis's church, and West Church. They're all just have supported us so much. So but folks can find out more about that on our website, and if they're interested in volunteering, the training will take place in the evenings this fall. Some of those trainings will be in person. We're hoping to be here in Madison if we have a good contingent of folks, so that those people won't have to drive all the way to Charlottesville. We did that in the spring at Beth Carr. John let us use his space over there, which was really nice. People can also support us monetarily. We're not asking that of the Board of Supervisors tonight, but we are a nonprofit, and so it's something that we're always keeping in mind. And then I think lastly, on the last page, yes, people can connect with us on social media. They can learn more about us by going to our website, like I said, or signing up for our newsletter. That can be done on our website also. I really wanted to leave some time for questions, if any of you had questions. I know I've sped through a lot. We're really delighted to be here in Madison. It was a goal of mine from joining the organization. It felt very unfair to me that children in other parts of our judicial district had access to this advocacy and that children here in Madison did not. So I'm really proud of our efforts and our joining this community in this effort.
Questions or comments?
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman. Just out of curiosity, because I am not familiar with your program.
Yes, sir.
What is the risk to a CASA volunteer? Because I can envision, of course, these are oftentimes very serious, delicate situations with these children, and I could envision a disgruntled parent who may find themselves on the wrong side of a court decision, lashing out in retribution to the CASA volunteer, placing the blame on them. Do you run into that? Is that a problem generally? Or?
I'll tell you, I have not run into it. I can't tell you that every parent is happy with the recommendations that our CASAs make to the court, but I do think that parents often feel heard if they have spoken to the CASA. We really look for the strengths in families and really try to communicate those strengths, even when families are struggling, even when there's been trauma in a family, to communicate those strengths to the court. So I do think that families feel heard by CASAs. Has it happened in the 45-year history of CASA across the U.S.? Probably. But we have immunity through the Code of Virginia for CASA work, and we also have insurance that we provide through our program to protect our CASAs. Yes.
I just have a quick question. So do you have translation services involved in your group? So how does that work?
Thank you for that question. It's a really important need. It's something that we are working on. We are hoping to always be recruiting more Spanish-speaking volunteers in particular, but we do provide access to language line translation services, so our volunteers can call up a translator and get a translator on the phone if they need to do that, so that they can speak with a family or a child. We also provide, our whole website will translate into any language that you need it translated into. We have lots of our most important letters and forms in Spanish, as well as Arabic, because we have many families, especially in the Charlottesville area, who have come to that area as, with the IRC, and so we have those languages available too. It's tricky. It's hard, and I think it's something that we, like I started by saying, we're constantly working on. I'm talking to a Latinx sorority at the university to see if we may be able to partner with them to maybe bring them alongside our CASA volunteers to help with translating. So that's something that we're working on.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so, Mr. Vaughn, are y'all services exclusive to kids in foster care?
Yes, sir. So under the code, so CASA is in the Code of Virginia, as I've mentioned, with regard to immunity, but also our responsibilities and our obligations are laid out in the code. In the code, we can take cases, custody cases, CHINS cases, when the judge has a concern about an underlying abuse or neglect concern. We at Piedmont CASA just don't have the capacity to take those cases right now. We've prioritized abuse and neglect cases because that's where we see the greatest need. And in partnership with the judges across the 16th, that's kind of been our agreement that we'll prioritize those kinds of cases.
Okay, so now I guess I will show my ignorance towards the foster care program, but it seems like there's should be some overlap between the foster care program and what CASA does.
And we work in partnership with the professionals in the foster care system and in communication with them. But our CASAs can't even drive the children that they work with. So they
can't take them off site.
Right. So
That
they
was gonna be
can
my next question. Yeah, okay.
they can meet with them at, go to school for lunch, or they can go to the foster home and meet with them and talk to them there, or go to other public places, but they do not drive them. So they are not involved in the actual caretaking of the child. They are really an advocate for that child.
Charged with reporting back to the judge.
Yes, sir. So they file an extensive report 30 days in advance of hearings that outline everything that they've learned and make recommendations to the court about what they think are in the best interest of the child.
Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
No, thank you for being in Madison and doing the job that y'all do. The only one I'm afraid you're going to show up in February is do you participate in the Give Local Piedmont?
We did. We gave it a shot this year, and we'll try again next year. Like I said, we're a nonprofit, so part of that is always fundraising. But we have a pretty diversified funding stream and feel pretty comfortable where we are. And that doesn't mean things can't change. But we did participate and give local Piedmont plan to do so in the future.
Yeah, I had a friend that got married for the second time. I don't know, maybe third. I forget. But he requested that instead of wedding presents to donate to CASA. I thought that was kind of cool.
Wow. That's great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your excellent questions. I can always be a resource to you or any community member at Madison. People should not hesitate to reach out to me through the website or by email or just picking up the phone if they have questions. We're excited to be here. We're excited to be of service and looking forward to getting to know the community better.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, all business. Leathers Lane maintenance request. Mr. Gordon, please.
Yes, sir. Following your June 25th meeting, you gave us some direction. I sent an email to Mr. Whidbey on the 27th with your direction, asking to rescind the previous maintenance request with no history or unnecessary comments, stating crusher run only, that this would be a single instance of maintenance, not an ongoing maintenance agreement. And then the trees along the side of the roadway would be removed. Also cited that will be followed up in 30 days pending good behavior and meeting of the criteria that you set forward. On July 11th, I received a maintenance request that we had amended on a few occasions to take away some of the unnecessary comments in history, and the one that you have before you I received on the 12th. We did receive several supplementals from the Kirbys, which are in your packet as well. Those were, excuse me, you were given hard copy handouts. We did not get them published in the packet. They were actually two attachments from the Lindhoffs. No, that's fine, but I just wanted to make for the record, you do have those hard copies before you. There were two, there was a VDOT standard and I think some ditching.
Yeah, I think I have is from the.
Now, we do have opposition against the request from several residences. The handouts you have before you are the VDOT standards and I believe as well as drainage and so forth details.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please.
I think this request is not ready for prime time at this point. I look back at the minutes from June 25th. Some of the conditions were to allow Mr. Whidbey to do the request. There's a lot with 30 days of good behavior. I have had some reports of some behavior which I don't consider good, although I don't know that it was reported to the sheriff's department, but still some vocal outbursts to the neighborhood. Let's see, we had wanted the removal of the trees in the right-of-way, and I don't think that's been done. Removing that stake, where is it in here? Where is it? Hang on just a second. Various items in the right-of-way.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's the
So
one.
the trees and the T-posts. So as far as I'm concerned, the conditions have not been met, so I don't see how we can approve this until air conditions have been met.
I'm tired of talking about this at every meeting. I agree with Cardi that conditions haven't been met. We've specified some very specific things. They haven't been taken care of. We're back to the same thing, just minus the history, which we all know and all of Madison County seems to know at this point. I think we'll see how it goes here in another month. I mean, I know that's just delaying, but everybody's gotta get along up there. We've specified where we're at on these things. That's where I see this at this point. Anybody else have any comments or thoughts on this? Y'all wanna see this thing come back in a month?
Yeah, I guess I'll make a motion that we table this request for another month.
I can wait for
We got a
discussion
motion,
period.
Now we
Yes,
need to do the second. All right, we got a motion and a second. Ms. Weekly?
I just want to be clear, and I appreciate Brian working with all residents and making it clear the board's direction. I'm hearing a motion on the floor about 30 days and consider again. What staff will do, if it's okay with the board, myself or Mr. Gordon can put out that email again that's clarifying, because in this maintenance request, it still has the number 57s. The board has said crush or run. You have made it clear about the trees. We were told that, being the individual claimed they did not plant the trees, they would not be removing the trees. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on the board's action, so our office has any follow-up necessary. Because if the same request stands before you, then really they're not fulfilling the crush and run versus 57. I do want to point out, as one of the residents did, a new element of this scope was kind of taken down a little more of the base, if you will. But really, the things I see that speak against what you had asked for is the type of stone material, or aggregate, if you will, that's being proposed, the Rosa Sharons as well. So any direction you would, I know that might seem minor detail, but any direction the board like to give, I do not want to bring back the same maintenance request. If it is not what you asked
The
for.
direction is, it needs to be crush or run. We've specified that, and that the trees and the stake need to go. Don't care who planted them, but if they are in the right of way, I think according to our legal direction is we shouldn't be doing a whole lot of maintenance up there. I think that is the right way to go. But they are clearly in the right of way. They need to go, and good behavior needs to be done. And that's reports that we're getting as citizens and supervisors, from neighbors up there.
I don't mean to belabor this, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect. If we're going to put it back out there and say, hey, this needs to be revised if you want to be heard, but if it's not, I'd rather not bring it back to you in 30 days.
That's
But
fine.
if it's the same request and they choose not, do you want it
Fine.
back to you in 30 days?
If it doesn't get revised, don't bring it back to us.
Okay. I want to be
Everybody fine with
respectful
that?
of the community's time, the board's
Absolutely.
time, staff's time.
Yeah, that
Please.
too.
What's else?
So not approving the continual maintenance.
Oh, yeah.
There was a sentence in there about
No.
continual maintenance. That's got to be stricken.
And also, we will not circulate amongst, because we put a lot of time into, so we will not circulate this amongst the community unless it meets the standards that the board is at. Because I just think it's a waste of everyone's time.
Absolutely.
If the request is not what the board has asked for.
Do you amend your motion to include that if it's not with what we specified, then it will not come back in front of us?
Yes, I will amend the motion
What about
to
the
state
second?
that.
All right, so the motion's been amended and seconded to that amendment. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Let's go to new business. Shenandoah National Park, Madison County MOU. Mr. Weekly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This Shenandoah National Park memorandum of understanding was circulated from the park to Sheriff Weaver. I asked a little bit about it. It seems to be when they have a changeover of management, even though there's an interim superintendent there now, they send this out to get, I guess, updated signatures. It is what I would refer to as an interoperable agreement, so it kind of specifies how the park system and law enforcement primarily would work. Although the agreement, as drafted, it recognizes the law enforcement being our sheriff's department. It will be between, as in the title here, SMP and the County of Madison. The sheriff has reviewed this. Our attorney has reviewed it in full. We see no trip hazards or concerns. Staff recommends approval to the Board of Supervisors with authorizing the county administrator to sign. because this is drafted to bear my signature should the board choose to approve. And I stand by with any questions you may have. You can see the signature blocks are there before you.
Questions, comments on this? Shannon, anything you want to add?
I would only add that this is mostly an agreement to work together in the future in case of an emergency or criminal investigations. I guess most importantly for my review of it, there's no funding obligations to this. It can be withdrawn by either side. It's essentially just what it says, memorandum of understanding to try to get along, particularly on things that are important to both the county and to the Park Service, whether that's emergency or criminal activity. So I don't have any legal objections to it.
All right, what do you have?
I mean, I was just looking at, yeah, there's verbiage in here about, claims for, I mean, if we provide mutual aid in the park, it's on us, and if they provide aid down here, it's on us. Now, I would think that the case like the fire up there, that turns into a whole separate issue.
The fire department actually has a separate MOU with the Park Service. But yeah, you're exactly right. Something of that magnitude would spawn a whole different set of circumstances as it did last fall.
Yeah, and there's verbiage in here to cover that, but
Yeah.
basically,
We will work in concert with one another, but as you're saying, any expenses or things undertaken by such agency would be bared by such agency.
yeah, right.
I just have a question for Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright, just to refresh my memory, if there is a criminal act committed in the park, let's say homicide, who has jurisdiction as far as the prosecuting the case, investigating, prosecuting?
So I don't want to speak out of turn. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but because that would be federal land and that would be a federal prosecution in the Western District of Virginia. I don't believe it's concurrent jurisdiction. There are some places where it can be both state and federal, and then they just decide between themselves who's going to take it. But I believe it's because it's federal property, it'd be a federal prosecution.
All right, any other comments or thoughts on this? What would y'all like to do with this MOU?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize Jonathan Weekly, our county administrator, to sign an MOU between Shenandoah National Park and Madison County.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Anything we need to discuss? Good. Information and correspondence. It's looking better. Public comment. Public comment. Nothing. All right. We do have closed session. Thank you all, please.
Oops. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in a closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A1 for personnel and 2.2-3711A7 for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all.
Dustin, you seconded?
This conference is no longer being recorded.